to Expats. What the fuck? Your spiritual guide through Expatia. Disclaimer: in traces it may contain serious conversation. Hello and welcome to the world premiere of Two Expats What the Fuck. And this is the #1 funniest podcast you will ever hear in your life about expats. Or is this too much? Should I dial it back a bit?
Maybe.
It was a bit too much, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah, first thing I thought it was two expats, one cup.
Yeah, not that kind of a show.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try this again. This will be a podcast about everything and anything we just think of about expating and life as expats. Hopefully we can even help with some of our ideas or experiences, but mostly we'll just try to have fun.
Yeah, having fun is important.
Yeah. Okay, then let's start at the beginning and we'll introduce ourselves. And here's my co-host Bogdan. He will tell you why he's an expert in expats. Start.
Yeah, let's put on the clock and see what happens. Why am I an expat? Well, that's a tough question. I don't know. It just happened for us, for me and my wife. I don't know what happened exactly, but it was some kind of weird combination between chance and trying to think clearly about what do we want in life. And somehow we ended up moving abroad and not giving a fuck anymore about what the fuck is happening in our home countries, actually, for the most part, except when we think about our parents and our friends, which can be quite challenging. One of the challenging things is leaving that behind. You, Zoli?
Yeah, regarding your answer about parents, it's difficult. Sometimes you feel a bit guilty that you got out and they're still there. It's mixed feelings because you think about home with nostalgia, but at least in my case, I wouldn't really go back. So it is weird.
There's for me, it's two sides. On the one side is exactly as you said. I kind of feel guilty that I left them behind somehow, but at the same time, I am over the top happy that I left them behind. I don't know how to explain it, but being
I get it. That you took this step and you had the guts to take this step, which is, I believe, a pretty big step, especially for us, because we didn't want to move from our home country. We were okay. We had a company there. We were fine. And then you guys deserted and started putting ideas into my head that Expatia is better than where we were living.
Yeah, well, unfortunately for you guys, now we've actually had the chance of having a really good experience since moving. We actually moved to Sweden, and for us, I don't know what made it that it just fits so well with who we are and what kind of a person, what kind of people we want to be. The environment around us, both socially and nature and everything that revolves about our environment right now, is how we like it, actually, how we want it to be. Easy, old man, not giving a shit, you know?
You were lucky. You found the country you liked on your first try. You didn't really move around. You said Sweden, and it was Sweden. Great. Good for you guys.
Well, we didn't really say Sweden. It was mostly about chance. So I don't know. I think it's just luck that we had this huge luck that we ended up somewhere that we feel comfortable with and we feel awesome here. So I know it's different for you guys. You had it a bit tougher, maybe.
Yeah, our journey was a bit more perilous, shall I say. You convinced us to move to Sweden as well, because it's beautiful and it's nice, and you said it's the best place on earth. And we didn't believe you at all until I think you bought us plane tickets to holiday there. It was a week or two. I can't remember what was the first visit.
Yeah,
1 or 2 weeks were we there. Yeah. And after this short holiday, I didn't want to go home. It convinced me, okay, we'll move here. And in hindsight, I think that was our first mistake, that I judged the country during a holiday. And it's two completely different things, holidaying there and living there. But nevertheless, we moved to Sweden, everything was fine until we couldn't find jobs, and that was not so fine after a while.
Yeah, unfortunately the situation you guys were in was not as good. Like, when we decided to move abroad, actually, we had the chance to do so because of the fact that my wife got a job opportunity. So we came security, you know, financial safety. We were quite okay.
Sorry, I just interrupt you for a bit, because if we try to be educational as well, please tell us about this opportunity. How did she apply? What was the process? Because it might help someone to go the same route.
Well, it actually all started with her LinkedIn account. She had a couple of like requests, not requests, but messages from different recruiters, because she was finishing medical school. She was becoming a doctor, and there's a lot of recruiting happening exactly then for a lot of like students that are about to finish their medical school education. They have a lot of requests from recruiters to, I don't know, go for interviews and for different jobs in different countries. And at first we weren't really interested, but then something interesting came up, and we were. It's quite a long story, because I used to work at one of the companies that were making these kind of job fair events for medical students and in the medical field in general. And I had an idea what was happening behind the scenes, and I was like quite knowledgeable in the area just because of that. And then I told my wife, but why don't you just try applying for something that you think it's interesting on this website? And then she did, and it was like the first thing that she ever applied to. She got an answer quite quickly, surprisingly quickly, and they said, yeah, cool, we would be interested in having you here. And they invited us for a short tour, as you would say, just to see how it is there in Västervik in Sweden. And they paid for a short trip, like a week, I think it was. No, 3 days, 4 days maybe. Yeah, something like that. And we got invited there. They paid for the trip, they paid for the hotel, and we like instantly loved it. We felt like home. We felt like this is so awesome. And we were lucky because also we were in the summer there, and in the summer it's just beautiful.
Ideally, that's how you move to a foreign country, with everything paid for and everything paved in your way, yeah. And that's perfect. It's great that you guys managed that, and that's something I would recommend to everyone. If you have a chance to do it like this, just grab it, just do it. Even if it's a job that you don't really like, or you think that you would try to switch in a while, that doesn't matter. Just take this opportunity and get your foot in.
Yeah, I've noticed that all of those people and families that we've met here since we've moved, that have been through a similar process, they've been doing fine and not really having so much issues with the system or finding jobs or getting, as they say in Swedish, getting inside the society, adapting to the society, I would say. Mm-hmm. It's actually quite, I wouldn't say effortless, but in comparison to the people that are trying to move to this country, not having those resources available at hand, it's quite easy for people who already have a job waiting for them here. So
yeah, and I'll talk about our experience a bit so that you can see the differences. And so you can decide for yourself how will you try to tackle this. Because we didn't have a job when we moved out to Sweden. We had huge luck with you guys that you said that we could live at your place and search for a job from there. And we did that for about four months until we realized that it was a huge bureaucratical maze that we just couldn't get through it. It was sort of rigged in such a way that Europeans didn't really get a chance unless they had a good job or any job waiting for them. And since we didn't have that, we couldn't really go this route because there was a vicious circle of having a personal number or having a job. And you needed one to have the other, and vice versa. And this was a bit difficult because any job you applied to, they said that, okay, give me your personal number and I'll hire you. But since you didn't have a personal number, you couldn't get hired, and you couldn't get a personal number without having a job. So that was a bit difficult for us, and after a while we just gave up and said, okay, this is not for us, and we moved to Germany, and we started from the bottom.
Okay, can I ask you, why didn't you just go back to your country? Why did you decide to try something else?
Yeah, that's a great question, because as you recall, I said that I didn't really want to leave my home country because we were relatively okay there. But moving to Sweden, however terrible and horrible and depressing that was for us not finding jobs, it was still better than home. And we said that, okay, we don't really want to go back. Especially it was a pride thing, I could say, that after telling to all my friends that, hey, I'm moving to Sweden and I'm never coming back to Romania because that's how I left. I said I don't ever want to come back. After 4 months going back penniless and not having achieved anything was sort of a huge deal for me, and I said I can't really do that. I need to achieve something, and that's how we landed in Germany. We just phoned a friend who we knew searched for employees, and we just got hired. They even gave us a room. It wasn't a home, it was a room with bathrooms where we could live in, and it was much faster than in Sweden, although it was a horrible job. It was a warehouse worker where we worked about 10, 12, 13 hours a day. So it wasn't easy, but it was still better than nothing.
So you would say you kind of had the thing that was missing in Sweden when moving to Germany. You were moving to a place where you already had a job waiting for you, right?
Yep, exactly. That's the main difference, because it depends on your personality, I guess, as well, but going abroad with a plan and with something in hand is much better than just trying it. I'm not saying that you couldn't succeed or there are not success stories all around us.
I don't know about that actually, but I do understand that from my experience, I when we moved here, I did not have a job. So I kind of was in a similar situation for a while, but but having the status of sambo when moving here, that means that you're living together with someone. And in our case, my wife, because she got the job, she already every bureaucratic thing was kind of solved by the system, because they needed doctors. They needed them so badly that they were ready to do anything just to get them here. So she got the job, she got the personnummer, she got where to stay and so on. So somehow, because I was like a purse following the
That's what I wanted to ask you. How is it being a trophy wife?
Oh yeah. Well, at first it's awesome, but then you have to clean up and then take out the dog and
oh, it comes with responsibilities as well. I didn't know that.
Money costs money, man. Now, well, yeah, but for a while there, because I didn't have the same status as my wife, because we were living together as sambo. That means you're living together. After a couple of months, you could apply for a personnummer, because you can somehow prove to them that you can support yourself, but you don't have a job, but you support yourself through the sambo thing. So it's a bit weird, but nevertheless, I got my personnummer like in 6 months or something like that, and then everything went quite smooth afterwards. Actually, the job came through, not really easily, but it was much easier to get the job. It was much easier to go to someone and say, oh, I want this job, can you give it to me? And they'd be like, do you have personnummer? And I'd be like, yeah. So it makes things easier once you get the bureaucratic things out of the way.
Yeah, once you're documented, it's sort of all falls into place. That's how we were in Germany since we got a job. Here it's a whole other vicious circle. Here's with the job and a place to live. You can't really rent anything without proof of you having a job. and you can't really get a job without having an address, because you can't even open a bank account without an address. And that was the vicious circle. The difference is that I don't know how or why, but Germany has a lot more expats than Sweden, and they sort of worked around this system. And the people who are searching for workforce from outside Germany, they give you accommodations as well.
I think in Sweden there are similar arrangements. I'm not sure, but at least for the doctors, I know that is quite common. But of course, they don't pay for the accommodation, but somehow the workplace works as a what's called guarantee that you can pay your rent and you afford where to live. That's an interesting side to see, that somehow you would say it's unfair to the other workforces or occupations, but at the same time I think it's just variation. It's a necessity that they have. They have such.
Yeah, man, it's a free market. If they need this, it's natural that they'll accommodate it better. Because if they needed dog trainers, they would have paid for my relocation as well, but they didn't.
Yeah, and for some dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's just like what the market needs, and the market accommodating after their needs, you know.
And that's exactly the way it works in Germany, because they needed unqualified workforce, because they have huge warehouses and which are not automated yet. In a short time, I think they will be, but for the time being, they're not automated, and the Germans do not want to work here because it's badly paid, the work hours are long, and it's pretty difficult physical work.
Yeah, I was just paying attention to my watch. It said I need to take one more step for my 250 steps an hour goal. Sorry.
It's okay. I just don't understand why were you waving, world.
No, people change, you know, Zoli, and unfortunately right now I'm Swedish enough to think about my health, okay?
That's a whole other topic, and I think we'll make a separate episode only about this. How did you become Swedish and how did I become German? Or not? Who knows?
Yeah, but I think one important thing that maybe we should tackle this time is, what does it mean to move? When you think about it, for me it felt like I was starting from scratch. I didn't have anything, and somehow all my experiences and all my education that I've had in the past, somehow they amounted to nothing, or that was my feeling. So I felt like I was taking everything from scratch all over again.
And it's really disheartening to do that. Just a short background story. At home, I worked as a dog trainer, and I rehabilitated a lot of traumatized dogs that were later adopted in Germany. And a lot of volunteers from Germany came to us, and I showed them how to rehabilitate their dogs, and they were asking me questions, and they were genuinely curious about my work, and they were really paying attention to what I did. And I came to Germany, and no one even listened to me because I was an outsider, and I felt that my knowledge was no longer relevant, and it was
or valued.
Yeah, relevant or value. I felt it wasn't relevant, and I had a small panic attack that I have to relearn everything in German, even though it's the same job, it's the same process, only in another country. And because I didn't master the language enough to portray that I know things, that I'm not talking shit, I know what I'm talking about, they couldn't really believe me. And in some way I understand that if you try to portray something in a broken English, as I'm doing right now, you're not taken as seriously as if you are doing it right from the start.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way, and that's one of the reasons that even though I've been in Sweden for soon, it will be around 6 years, even though I've been in Sweden for such a not a long time, but it's like a considerable amount of time, I have now decided to start studying. So I just feel so for the first thing is I need to feel for myself. I need to have that feeling of I am good enough for the system. I have the knowledge that the average Swede has, that has gone through this kind of education that I have somehow. And then the second point is, if I am going to an employer to show my diploma, like if they ask me for education, I'm gonna be able to show them something they recognize.
Yeah, something Swedish, not something from an Eastern European country. Yeah, that's important.
The thing is, like, if I show them my engineer diploma from Romania, they're gonna look at it and they're gonna ask me, what is this? Is this like fucking baking soda recipe? Yeah, and it's disheartening, as you said. It feels like you no longer have the knowledge that you actually have. Like, you're not as able as you were before.
And it took me a long time to realize that it's not the case. And in some cases, I was better informed and better educated than the trainers here, because I had to deal with traumatized dogs. Here, they do sit, down, stay, because they do not have so many traumatized dogs, because from where? People here are educated and they don't torture their dogs. While at home, sadly, they do. And I had to work with these dogs, and I realized that my knowledge is on another level. I am good at rehabilitating, but I'm not so good at, example, sports dogs. But that doesn't mean that my knowledge isn't relevant.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that your knowledge isn't there or it isn't valuable. Unfortunately, I think it's more about the being able to have the medium where you can apply your knowledge. So that's the thing, you have to find your so-called market for your knowledge.
You have to master the channel in which you can portray your knowledge. Because if your language skills aren't there, you can't really convince people that, hey, I know what I'm doing, I'm okay at this.
It's both about convincing and then again delivering the knowledge, delivering the skills that you have, delivering what you need to the, like in your case, right? You have a dog and a dog owner. You're not going to talk to the dog. The dog is going to understand you, and you may be able to train the dog yourself. But then again, that's not the point. The point is for the dog owner to be able to handle the dog on a day-to-day basis. So that means for you that you have to use your language, a common language, a language that both you and the dog owner needs to be able to understand. And unfortunately, sometimes that takes time to be able to master a language. And as you said, the dog owner might not think you're good enough, might not think you have the capabilities or knowledge.
In your experience in Sweden, is English enough?
I would say it depends quite a lot on where you live. If you live in a bigger city, if you live in a university city like Stockholm, Göteborg, Malmö, or even a bit smaller cities than that, you would get by with English quite okay in most situations, even work related, I would say. But if you live in smaller cities where people are not as receptive to change or not as receptive to novelty, then I think you might have a problem. Although, as many of you maybe know, Sweden is one of the countries with like one of the highest level of English speakers per capita. Like good English, not like me, good, you know what I mean. So
what I discovered, and it's just my personal experience, I don't say this as a rule, I seen that, for instance, in Germany, if you start speaking English and your English is pretty bad, then the chances of them responding in English is higher than if you try to speak good English. They sort of clam up and they are afraid of your English being better than theirs. It's a weird thing.
I have to agree. Definitely the same feeling here. Somehow I feel like the Swedes get intimidated by someone that speaks as good or better English than them, which is quite weird, I would say. It's like weird. What the fuck, man? Can we just try to talk either way? I can understand what you're trying to say. You can understand what I'm trying to say. I don't see the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And in a short period of time, my English deteriorated because I knowingly spoke worse English so that I could converse with these guys. It's
Yeah, I can relate. I can relate. When we moved first to Västervik, Västervik is a small town, like 20,000 ish people, and we were living in some kind of like a apartment building where there were mostly immigrants in the apartment building. And I had some neighbors that were like from the Baltics. It doesn't really matter, but they weren't as good as English speakers as I am, or the average Swede is maybe. And I had to adapt my English to make it really bad, like fucking horrible English, just to be able to communicate with them. Because if I was speaking fluently as I do now, they wouldn't understand shit. So I had to do something like, yes, I like, this is good, yes, make. Felt
and
awful.
That's what I feel as well, because I've been in Germany for about 2 years, and my English is worsened dramatically. And not just because I am worsening it so that I can speak with Germans, because now I speak on a level in German that I can make myself be understood. But it's weird because when I was starting to learn German, I used English words. And now when I try to speak English, I have to concentrate really, really hard not to use German words, because they're just the first thing that pops into your head.
Yeah, but I was thinking, like, did you have any like expectations when it came to this kind of a like situation? I was, for me, for example, I was always in that mindset that maybe most of Europeans know that the Nordic countries, they're really good at English. They can talk English, they can speak English, they have a good English level. I was expecting not to have this kind of an issue. People not wanting to speak English because I might have a better level than they have, you know. And that's one of the things that I didn't expect to see. At the same time, when I was trying to speak Swedish and I was really bad, they would change to English, and then the other side of the coin came where when they realized that I speak really good English, they would like
switch back to Swedish.
Switch back to Swedish and stop talking to me, you know. They'd fucking run away. I was like, no, come on, man, come back. Oh yeah, that was horrible.
What I see in Germans is that maybe because they're used to a lot of foreigners here in Germany, they do not really speak English. They sort of force you to speak German, which I like, is great, because I would always fall back on English if I wasn't forced to speak German in certain situations. Even in familiar situations, in friend circles or dinners or whatever, they do not speak English. They force you to speak German, and they are extremely patient with you. That's not a problem, but they do force you to speak German, which I like.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because I've had a really tough time learning to speak Swedish, and for me, actually going to their Swedish for Immigrants courses that are free, it's awesome. It's an awesome resource. Honestly, I didn't expect like the country to give you courses in Swedish for free. Unfortunately, they are also understaffed, and the mentality in teaching here is somehow, it's good on as a system, it's good, but I don't think you can apply it to people immigrating in the country, because what I felt was that we were going at the slowest pace, at the pace that the slowest person in the class had. Mm-hmm. And for me, that I consider myself an average to maybe a bit better than average. Yeah, nah, I'm just joking. But I mean, you know what I mean. I consider myself as quite an average person. If you were put in the same group to someone that is unfortunate to not have the same mental capacity to process languages as fast as I can, then it just felt so horrible. And it was a horrible experience trying to learn Swedish that way. So for me, learning Swedish was actually when I actually got my first job. I learned until then I tried to learn by myself as much as I could, but it wasn't going so well. But when I was starting to work, I kind of made sure that I am obligated to speak, that I put myself in situations that made me obligated me to speak or to force some kind of Swedish out of me.
Just get out of your comfort zone and try it and do it, so you can learn. And that's the only way you can learn a new language, because in schools, you learn the grammar, you learn certain words, but until you use it, you're dead in the water. And that's an interesting thing, because that's how another friend of ours learned German. He's been living in Germany for about 6 or 7 years, no idea, a lot of time. And he was speaking German in front of us, and I was just looking like, man, you're here since forever. How the fuck didn't you learn the language? Until I realized that he was speaking Schwabisch, not German as a dialect here in Germany, because he learned it from his colleagues, from his friends, and that was German, and he spoke better German than me, but only Schwabisch. That's what I didn't understand at all.
Yeah, I had like a similar case of learning Swedish in just a specific Swedish, because when I got my first job, I worked in a factory in the middle of nowhere in the woods, which was awesome. I actually liked it. Like we had a lake in front of the factory, and every time I came to work in the morning, I seen the sun up or the sunset. It just felt awesome, like really good. And then the thing is, like in that area, and specifically for factory workers, they speak like a bit of a dirty Swedish, not like the grammatically correct Swedish. And then when we moved to a bigger city and I stopped working there and I started meeting people from the city, well, that was a shock. I was like, oh shit, I speak such trash. Oh my god, I have to start learning Swedish, Although I could get by and understand them.
Yeah, that's a huge step forward. If you can make yourself be understood, I think that's the first barrier you have to overcome. And afterwards, everything just falls into place. It's not such a huge struggle.
I think we should stop talking about this kind of fucking like, oh yeah, this is good. This is very useful for people. Yeah, it is. But I mean, I was interested to see, like, to talk also about discovering your new country. How did that go? How was it? How did it feel? Did you get like an aha moment, or was it just like sinking in slowly that it's?
I think there were small daily discoveries. I couldn't say
daily doses.
Yeah, there wasn't a huge aha moment. There were small interactions and encounters that sort of led me through the process. But there were a lot of funny situations due to the fact that I hadn't researched Germany at all. Because, as I've said, I was prepared for Sweden, and I didn't do my homework. I just, hey, I'm here.
Let's do this.
Now what? Yeah, now what?
Yeah.
And the first time we arrived, I believe it was a Sunday morning, and you brought us with your car from Sweden.
Yeah.
We took the ferry out to Germany, and I went to the hotel where we were booked, and I said, okay, let's stop somewhere to buy groceries. And we had no idea that everything is closed on Sunday. And we were like, okay, and now what? And what do you mean everything is closed on Sunday? How does that work?
Yeah, exactly. That was a shock, right? Yeah, well, for me, the most interesting thing, like, I've had a romantical vision of what Sweden is, because I've had like friends that were into Vikings, and before the Vikings, the movie, you know what I mean? They were like in the Viking culture with the gods and the whatever rock music and shit. And I've had like a weird kind of distorted vision of what Sweden would be. But then after moving here, I was actually really impressed, and I found out that life here and people here are not what I thought. Most of them are quite easygoing people, and they like planning. They love planning. I thought that was interesting. I had a hard time getting into planning stuff. You might, if you look in my fucking Google Calendar, you'll see like everything is planned. The whole day is planned, and it's like I have to. Not that I have to have it now, but it's a really helpful tool for me to get my day going. And that, I thought it was like one of the most interesting things about moving here and getting to know the Swedish society. Did you have like a similar thing? Or how was Germany? I don't know Germans, just I know that I like beer and Wurst.
That's about the extent of it. No. No, really. But I believe it's a great way to end this episode, and we'll talk about how we changed and how our perception changed about the countries we moved to in our next episode. So please just stick around if you liked this, and we'll try to make it funnier. The next one will be funnier.
Yeah, get some super glue and stick to the fucking mic, or not mic, the speakers, right?
Yeah. I just write funny on my forehead, so whenever you see me, you have to say a joke or something.
Well, they won't see you yet.
You see me.
I see.
The audience
Yeah,
won't
of
see
course.
me.
Yeah,
We do not want to traumatize them just yet.
No, not yet. It's fine. We're doing fine the way it is. Okay.
My voice isn't so scary as my appearance, so it's okay.
When's the next episode?
Good question. I'll let you know. No idea. Probably next week.
Good planning. Good planning.
We'll try to make one a week. And
Yeah, that sounds good.
If we succeed at that, then I say that we did it. We made it.
Yeah,
We can
I'll plan accordingly.
So, thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you didn't get bored out of your minds listening to us.
Thank you.
Bye.